अदाबर्स, जिनको जहाँ का दर्द है मादूद चंद हैं, वरना तमाम अपनी तरक्की पसंद हैं। दश्ते वफा में साथ वो मेरे क्यों चलें, नादान नहीं है दोस्त, बहुत होशमंद हैं। This talk I am going to give is dedicated to one of the lonely travelers of this Dashte Wafa, Asma Jahangir. Growing up in Karachi, Lahore was the glamorous walled city throbbing with poets, writers, lovers, activists, journalists spilling over each other in crowded cafes and smoky tea houses, a deluge of movement and sensations. A place where we were sent summer after summer to escape the heat, noise, and dust of Karachi. As a 13-year-old, the city acquired a new allure for me because two of my older siblings became students at King Edward Medical College and introduced me to an entirely new aspect of Lahore. They would return home during breaks and set Gulistan-e-Raza on fire with their friends, all of whom appeared to my dazzled eyes as exotic, stylish, trendy, toned and tanned, laughing and joking, dancing and jostling, studying hard and partying hard. The beautiful people of Lahore, the in crowd, फितरत ने सिखाई थी उनको उफ्ताद यहाँ परवाज यहाँ, गाए थे वफा के गीत यहाँ, छेड़ा था जुनूं का साज यहाँ. Thank you Razi, thank you Nussi, thank you Anila, thank you Marina and Shaukat, thank you LLF for giving me this opportunity. The story begins with a young Georgian Russian slave captured by a Turkish warrior and taken to Istanbul, where an Arab trader bought him because of his strong body, flowing hair, and ability to recite Persian and Turkish poetry. The slave was taken to Basra, where his master fell upon hard times and had to sell him. Wanting to help his master, the slave asked that his price be set at 1 million dirham. The master said, but the slaves are being sold for 200 to 300 dirham. Why should anyone pay 1 million for you? The slave said, because I know how to be a slave. Eventually, seeing no other way out of his quandary, the master put him up for 1 million dirhams. As expected, people who came to the auction and heard the price laughed out loud. But soon a buzz began in the city and finally reached the palace gate. Eventually, the king, out of curiosity, bought the slave. No sooner was the slave in his possession than the king ordered him to receive 100 lashes. While he was being whipped, the king sent his vizier to whisper in the slave's ear, advising him to ask for forgiveness. The slave replied, no, I cannot do that, because the king is now my master, and now my master's will is my will. This is what it means to be a slave, a total and complete devotion. When the king found out the slave's answer, he said, if that's really what he said, then 1 million dirham is too cheap a price for him. King, of course, Mahmud Ghaznavi, and the slave is Malik Ayaz. It was in the Battle of Lahore in 1021 AD, in which the Hindu rulers were defeated, that Ayaz gained a new respect for his military strategies that led to the fall of Lahore after a 6-month-long siege. A frustrated Mahmud Ghaznavi leveled the city. Once his anger was assuaged, he made Ayaz the first Muslim governor of Lahore and assigned him to rebuild the city. Ayaz transformed the city into a bustling metropolis, a dynamic center for the arts and crafts, poetry and music. Lahore became the beloved city, the city of sin and splendor. Jinne Lahore nahi vekhya, ote jammya hi nahi. So we know where Lahore has been. The question I'm asking is, where is Lahore going? Is it going towards intolerance, poverty, plenty for the few, fundamentalism, or towards compassion, acceptance, diversity, tolerance? There is no doubt about the tremendous potential of the gifted, generous population of Lahore. Then what is holding them back from dominating the world scene in science and arts? Allama Iqbal used 2 lines to give his scathing assessment of what is wrong. न वो इश्क में रहीं गर्मियाँ, न वो हुस्न में रहीं शोखियाँ, न वो गज़नवी में तड़प रही, न वो खम है जुल्फ़े अयाज में. Neither love has that warmth, nor beauty that humor, neither that vitality in Ghaznavi, nor the bend in the locks of Ayaz. न वो इश्क में रहीं गर्मियाँ, न वो हुस्न में रहीं शोखियाँ. State of general resignation, profound apathy. Now the deeply haunting second line, न वो गज़नवी में तड़प रही, न वो खम है जुल्फ़े अयाज में. This evokes several images. A man's honor is traditionally symbolized by his hair. Ayaz considered his master's honor as his honor. So loyalty demands complete and total subjugation of the slave's will to the master's will. But this whole equation becomes defunct if the master doesn't have the tadab. My friend Sara Suleri and I talked about how to translate the tadab cannot be anguish because that has a negative connotation. Here, na wo ghaznavi mein tadap rahi, na wo kham hai zulfe ayaz mein. So tadap here is more vitality. So if the master or the leader no longer possesses the ability to arouse and to inspire, तो फिर क्या होगा? कोई कारवां से टूटा, कोई बदगुमा हरम से, कि अमीर कारवां में नहीं खुए दिल नवाजी. दिल न वो गज़नवी में तड़प रही, न वो खम है जुल्फ़े अयाज में, conjures up another image. If we picture Ayaz heroically defending his master in the battlefield, attacking the enemy fiercely, his locks are now weighed down by his blood and his sweat. That kham is now the kham of readiness to sacrifice your life for the master. And then there's the subtlety provided by my beloved and genius friend Sara Suleri Goodyear, who pointed out that the generality of tadab, which can be felt by many, to the particularity of kham in the hair of an individual. So Allama Iqbal's diagnosis of this apathy can be applied to the whole world today. There's a hopelessness being felt globally. The messages are full of doom and gloom, whether it's climate change or the refugee crisis, whether it's the growing income disparity being seen all over, or the fundamentalist intolerance seeping everywhere. What Iqbal diagnosed for all of us is a state of intellectual, spiritual, and emotional indifference, even to the most appalling, egregious attacks on our basic human values. In fact, shrugging off questions of our planet's very survival. ये हाल दुनिया में उस कौम का है, भंवर में जहाज आके जिसका घिरा है, किनारा है दूर और तूफान बपा है, गुमा है ये हरदम के अब डूबता है, नहीं लेते करवट मगर अहले किश्ती, पड़े सोते हैं बेखबर अहले किश्ती। घटा सर पे अदबार की छा रही है, फलाकत समा अपना दिखला रही है, नहूसत पसो पेश मंडला रही है, चपो रास्त लेफ्ट एंड राइट से सदा आ रही है कि कल क्या थे और आज क्या हो गए तुम, अभी जागते थे अभी सो गए तुम। पर उस कौम गाफिल की गफलत वही है, तनज़्ज़ुल पे अपने कनात वही है, मिले खाक में पर रऊनत वही है, हुई सुबह पर ख्वाब गफलत वही है, न अफसोस इन्हें अपनी जिल्लत पे है कुछ, न रश्क और कौमों की इज्जत पे है कुछ। Well, the younger generation seems to be instinctively responding to Iqbal's diagnosis of indifference, because my 24-year-old daughter Scheherazade and her friends in New York refer to themselves as being woke. The word woke owes its popularity to Black Lives Matter movement in America with the simple and profound message, #stay woke. Woke is not the same as awake. Woke means being past the process of waking up. It means being aware. It means knowing what's going on in the community. It is the opposite of cool. It means passion, engagement, being well informed. It means being up to date. Woke means something beyond not being asleep. Woke necessitates discarding the status quo. It means to actively challenge the world we live in, to question dogma, to make an effort to understand the experience of others. Where's our woke? Humans are very complex. We are incapable of making the obvious choices, even when facts are staring us in the face. We can be simultaneously brilliant in one area and stupendously wanting in another. जिसने सूरज की शुआओं को गिरफ्तार किया, जिंदगी की शबे तारीख सहर कर न सका. The question is, how do we make that quantum leap from malaise to vigor, from darkness to light, from broke to woke? Who do we turn to for guidance? Well, the Prophet Khizr. His name has become synonymous with the universal guide. If we are lost, he shows us the way. There's an apocryphal story that Khizr was leading Alexander the Great, or some say Cyrus the Great, towards the eternal fountain of life when they were separated by a storm. And afterwards, Khizr alone found the fluid. The fluid which was going to immortalize him, and imbibed it, and is alive, showing us the way. Whereas Alexander died young. Ghalib takes a shot at the legend with his signature ingenious astuteness. क्या किया खिज़्र ने सिकंदर से? क्या किया खिज़्र ने सिकंदर से? अब किसे रहनुमा करे कोई? What did Khizr perform on Alexander? Now what guidance can one choose? The delicacy here is precisely in the illusion created by superficial reading. If Alexander could not depend upon Khizr, who can we trust? Are we to become self-reliant and now depend on ourselves only? No, it is exactly the opposite of what Ghalib is saying. If Alexander could not trust Khizr, how can we trust our minds to guide us? In fact, what Ghalib is doing is warning us of a loss of compass, a mental disrobement. Ghalib is telling us to become more skeptical, to not be complacent. Question your own thoughts by constantly reminding yourself, क्या किया खिज़र ने सिकंदर से, अब किसे रहनुमा करे कोई. So let us begin by questioning ourselves. I want to speak to the men first, because truth must be spoken to power. I want to speak directly to the young men. You are the inheritors of a glorious tehzeeb, courtly customs, noble traditions, a culture known for its magnificent achievements in high poetry, splendid paintings, sublime music. It's a tehzeeb in which shows of macho behavior in a man are considered crude and crass. No, in our tehzeeb, it is gentleness, which is the height of masculinity. I urge you to proudly claim your tehzeeb back. Start exercising these high standards of decency and civility. And you know why I'm confident that you can do this? I know you're going to laugh at it, but it happens to be true. I know men can do this because men know how to be slaves. किसी ने बहुत अच्छा कहा है, मैडम की डांट सुन के मुलाजिम पुकार उठा, नौकर हूं आपका, कोई शौहर नहीं हूं मैं. Men know how to be ayahs, to sacrifice everything, including their life for their passion, be it for a woman or for their art. Women, we will always think of children first. Even when we don't have children, we are hardwired to exercise restraint. Men, no such inhibitions. If they have a passion, that's it. Men, nothing holds them back. It's a very beautiful thing to see. So I say to the men, all the glory of the sun, the brilliance of the sun, pales in front of a single spark of passion that slices your heart. खुर्शीद जहाँ ताप की ज़ौ तेरे शरर में, आबाद है एक ताज़ा जहाँ तेरे हुनर में, जचते नहीं बख्शे हुए फिरदौस नज़र में, जन्नत तेरी पिन्हा है तेरे खून जिगर में, ए पैकरे गिल कोशिश पहम की जजा देख, खोल आँख ज़मी देख, फलक देख, फिजा देख. This is why I say to the men, your intelligence, your stamina, your vitality, your sheer force of will has the power to bring changes in the world overnight. You need to champion the women. You need to protect the children. How many little Zainabs have to die before you learn to be woke? When I did my rotation in the obstetrics ward of Dow Medical College as a fourth-year medical student, I had an epiphany. The department frequently had children being brought up in the ward because they had been abandoned, usually by teenage unmarried mothers or impoverished women whose families could not afford another mouth to feed and who were forcibly taken home, screaming and crying without their newborns. Until these children were picked up by orphanages, medical students like ourselves and nurses would serve as surrogate mothers. This is what was arranged by our indefatigable professor, Madam Razia Ansari. During my month-long rotation, I became deeply attached to one of these infants who was nearing his first birthday. I fed him several times a day and often was there to put him to sleep. Then I finished my rotation and went away. When I came back, a few weeks later, the baby recognized me, spread out his arms to hug me, which completely ravished me on the spot. But it also broke my heart. Because in that moment, I realized that I would have to leave Pakistan. I would have to leave Pakistan because if I stayed back, I would become an activist. All my dreams of curing cancer would go by the wayside. So I left everything and proceeded to the land of opportunities. And 40 years later, guess what I've become? An activist. Activist fighting to promote our amazing tehzeeb, to introduce to the world the works of Ghalib and Mir, Quratullah and Haider and Muhammad Ali Radolvi. I may be a mutant lonely voice reciting Masnavi-e Zehr-e-Ishq when I'm out on my early morning jog by the East River. But when my first lesson in the power of individual activism came barely a couple of months after I landed in America back in 1977. At Roswell Park, they had an international conference in which they invited South African doctors also. And the white South African team came and presented their data that the incidence of esophageal cancer in the Bantu natives is much higher than that in the white population. At the end of this, one of my black young colleague oncologists raised his hand, got up and said, Dr. Johnson, do you think that the incidence of esophageal cancer in the Bantu natives is high because of swallowed pride? I want to summarize my message. Clearly, we are living through a very dangerous moment in history. There are enormous challenges at an individual level and at the planet level. Leaders have not provided the moral clarity needed. Can you then depend upon yourself? No, kya kiya Khizr ne Sikandar se. Point is that no one person can guide us. None of this can be sufficient while navigating through complexities of life. So what can we do to lift ourselves out of the doldrums? Here's a way. The young men and women sitting here and texting are using devices which are millions of times faster and thousands of times cheaper than what was available 2 to 3 decades ago. Use it. Start learning about your own tehzeeb. Learn about Josh and Faz and Faraz and Anis and Dabir. बालाए ज़मी जिंदों की तामीरें हैं और ज़ेरे ज़मी मुर्दों की जागीरें हैं. इबरत का मुरक्का है अजब सफ़े ज़मी, इस वर्क के दोनों तरफ तस्वीरें हैं. My message is that the theatre of life is not unidimensional. You need constant self-transformation through questioning your beliefs, educating yourself, gain confidence and security, shed your lethargy. In the past, it was kings and pharaohs, dictators who had the ability to solve large-scale problems. You can leverage today's hyper-connected world for disseminating your activism. I want to end by addressing the women now. Humans are hostage to instincts of tribalism, lust and greed. But thankfully, our race has one incredible asset. You. It is the women with your maternal instincts who provide the saving grace for humanity. Remember Ayaz? He went from being a slave to the first Muslim ruler of Lahore. He was a slave, but he was freer than a king because he was free from fear. He was a slave, but he was more confident than a king because he was ready to face the consequences. He was a slave, but he smashed the chains by relying on his internal resources, which combined both reason and emotions. And what was the result? एक ही सफ में खड़े हो गए महमूद व अयाज, ना कोई बंदा रहा और ना कोई बंदा नवाज. So your wisdom, my dear women, is the only antidote to violence and intolerance. Wisdom comes from learning to accept the perspective of others. It comes from choosing to compromise when needed and to defend your rights when needed. And it comes more naturally to those who are oppressed in a system. That means you, the women. Instead of feeling sorry for yourself, polish that wisdom. Become woke to your inner voices. Bring a revolution first and foremost through self-revolution. Resist and persist. Unshackle yourself from these oppressive bondages, the secondary enslavements that man and society have placed upon you. Reject sexist and humiliating remarks from everybody. Stand up for yourselves. तोड़कर रस्म के बुत बंदे कदामत से निकल, ज़ोफ़े इशरत से निकल, वहम नज़ाकत से निकल, नफ्स के खींचे हुए हल्क़े अज़मत से निकल, क़ैद बन जाए मोहब्बत तो मोहब्बत से निकल। राह का खार ही क्या गुल भी कुचलना है तुझे, उठ मेरी जान मेरे साथ ही चलना है तुझे। तोड़ ये अज़्म शिकन सिलसिला पंद भी तोड़, तेरी खातिर जो है जंजीर ये सौगंध भी तोड़। तौक ये भी है ज़मर्रुद का। इकबाल आस्क्ड 100 years ago, क्या चीज़ है आराइश व कीमत में ज़्यादा, आज़ादी निस्वां ये ज़मर्रुद का गुलूबंद। कैफी आंसर्स, तौक ये भी है ज़मर्रुद का गुलूबंद भी तोड़, तोड़ पैमाने मर्दान खिरदमंद भी तोड़। बन के तूफान छलकना है उबलना है तुझे, उठ मेरी जान मेरे साथ ही चलना है। तू फलातून और अरस्तू है तू ज़ोहरा परवीं, तेरे कब्ज़े में है गर्दूं तेरी ठोकर में ज़मीं। हाँ उठा जल्द उठा पाए मुक़द्दर से जबीं, मैं भी रुकने का नहीं वक्त भी रुकने का नहीं। लड़खड़ाएगी कहाँ तक के संभलना है तुझे, उठ मेरी जान मेरे साथ ही चलना है तुझे।